everyone, and welcome back to the channel. A big thank you to everyone that has been liking and subscribing our videos. The channel continues to grow as we're just in our second month of operation. So I like the progress, and it's all thanks to you. So today, just a few hours before the deadline, we'll just go through mainly the press conferences from yesterday, what we got to know, and maybe it can hopefully guide you just a few hours before the deadline. But it's important to note that our deadline is 4:30 p.m. That is Ugandan time. So for those that have not yet locked in their teams, you have just under 3 hours, or under 2.5 hours to go. So you need to work on that and have your team fully submitted. So quickly go through Aston Villa. The updates we did get was that from Emery was that Ross Barkley was the main absentee, whom they expect back until after the international break, while it's likely that Matty Cash will be as well. Then Morgan Rogers managed to shrug off the knock that he got last in the previous game week because he was substituted a bit earlier while he was limping, but he managed to play in the Champions League, so he's fit for those that have him. Nottingham is already celebrating having won, I think, both coach Nuno Espirito and Wood won player of the month and as well as coach of the month, manager of the month. So kudos to them, and kudos to those that have been having Wood and he has been returning for you as well. The news from there was that the team is basically the same going into game week 11. Danilo still with an ankle injury, as well as Ibrahima Sangare. Those are the long-term absentees, and then they expect James Ward-Prowse back this weekend. Next was Ipswich. Chidozie Ogbene, Axel Twanzebe, Jacob Greaves, Jack Taylor remain on the injury list, and then Harry Clark returns from a one-match ban, but Calvin Phillips will be serving his own ban since he got a red card in the previous game week. For Man City, the injury news remains the same. We all know the people that are out, and maybe the only addition was that Jack Grealish was called up by England, but he still remains not fit. Then the usual Rodri, Bob Stones, everyone else remains out. From Brentford, Thomas Frank mentioned that Aya is out for a few more weeks, while Henry, Thiago, Nunez have all been back on the grass, and the capacity to return recently is all backward by Hickey and the Silva still long-term absentees. That's it from Brentford. Then Leicester City, we do know that Bobby Dicodiva-Reid remains out, while Patson Daka is back in training. Chaudhry returned from the previous game week, while Jacob Szaszowski is also still unavailable. Then from Southampton, Ryan Fraser will miss this game week 11, but Adam Lallana should be okay. Martin said everyone else is fine. So besides those two that were mentioned, everyone else is okay. From Arsenal, most of you had doubts on the likes of Rice, Havertz. So from the news we've got from Arteta, much as we've known not to trust much from what he says, is that Havertz and Merino will be assessed tomorrow after picking up knocks in the UCL. Declan Rice is still a doubt. Tierney, Calafiori, Tomiyasu all remain out, and apparently Sterling can't play. Martin Odegaard, as we saw during the week, he returned to the squad midweek and is pushing for a start. My take is that most of them will play. Rice may play, Havertz may play, Odegaard may still come off the bench. Then from Manchester United, mentioned Christian Eriksen, Mount, and Anthony all returned to the United squad on Thursday evening. Amad Diallo will need to be assessed ahead of this game. He did have a very good game week in the Champions League, so hopefully he can maintain his position in the squad and give us more options. Man United does raise a very good brain teaser for most of us because the likes of Bruno Fernandes, I think, are looking very good. The team is looking up. So if they can maintain this going into Amorim's stint as a new coach, I think we can begin looking at their assets, as especially Bruno Fernandes, who's also on penalties and set pieces, together with Garnacho Alejandro. Crystal Palace, Glasgow confirmed on Friday that Eddie Nketiah had picked up a hamstring injury. The striker joins the likes of Eze, Wharton, Lama, Red, Franca, and Eagles in the injury list. As we know, they're playing Fulham. So for those that have Fulham assets like me, hopefully the team can be weakened and our assets can be able to shine and perform. Wolves, who's also on the spot, because we've had news that if it doesn't perform in the next few game weeks, Gary O'Neill may be one of those coaches that are next to be sacked. He did mention that Wang is back in training, which should bolster his attack, but also threaten some of our assets. So we need to watch this closely. The likes of Strand Larsen and Cunha may be affected by his coming back, though it looks like they'll bring him in a bit. They'll have to involve him slowly by slowly. Chelsea from Maraska. This is an important one for Cole Palmer. He did mention they were expecting him to train on Saturday, and then they'll be able to make a decision. There's been a post by himself on Instagram going around whereby he has his left foot covered up in some bit of a cast with while he's in the gym. So we do not know what much to take out of that, but I'm thinking he should be okay. The only problem is that he may not start, he may come in later on, or even if he starts, he may be taken off a bit early because he has to be managed as being one of their star players, and especially going into the international break as well. That is it, I think, from the first half of the press conferences. The next was Spurs. They did mention Christian Romero was also to be assessed yesterday and today. So that is something to look out for those that have him. So he's one of those that is yet to be assessed, and they'll make a decision for the game week ahead. Richarlison, Moore, Warner, and Van der Ven, as well as Odebar, remains sidelined. Though there was some leakage that Van der Ven could be back on training, though he may not be risked ahead of this game week. Importantly, also for Newcastle, is that Eddie Howe confirmed that this weekend has come too soon for Callum Wilson and Kieran Trippier, so those are out. Jacob Murphy as well could miss out again, while Matt Target is back in training. And then I think lastly is the Liverpool update, where I did mention, as we expected, that Diogo Jota is one of those that is still going to not expected until the end of the international break. As we noticed, Ibrahima Konate did play in the UCL, so he did shrug off his injury. That is it, I think, from the main assets or the main teams in our press conferences that were yesterday. So going into my team, as most of you might have noticed, it does look like this. I usually release it just a few hours before the deadline, and for now it's looking like this. My discussion really is more on captaincy. I do believe it was on Son earlier on in the week because I did want a differential punt on him. But as we went on and as he played only 45 minutes in the Champions League, I continued to get worried that I don't want him to be in again because his minutes look like they're still just being managed by the team. So I did move it back to Mo Salah. So it looks like it's going to be on him until the deadline, really. I don't expect much change just because of that doubt. But other than that, I would have left it on Son. He looks like a very good differential captain for this week. So the teams really to be looked out for are the likes of Wolves and Southampton. We also expect something big from Spurs and Ipswich. So those are the main teams and main assets that are really being looked at. Arsenal, we are yet to, as you notice, I think Raya is on my bench as well. That is because of that fixture and the fact of how they are playing, the form and the current form they are in really doesn't give me much confidence in giving him a starting position ahead of Fabianski, who plays Everton at home. So for those that are still making last minute changes, I think the only other person I would tell you to look at really, except those two teams I've mentioned, is Manchester United's, I think, Bruno Fernandes. He looks like a very good shout as well for this game week. That is it, I think, from my team. We have a few hours to the deadline. I think 2.5 hours really left. FPL responsibly in case anything really comes up ahead of ahead of the deadline. I'll be communicating that on my FPL Twitter pages. Otherwise, I'll catch you at the end of the game week and FPL responsibly. And all the best to all of you. Thank you very much.